Ah, there we go. There we go. Hello, everyone. Give me one moment. I need to pull up. I have a very awkward setup for today, so I can. That's fine. Let me see here. There we go. There we go. I think we're good. Yeah. Let's see. Just need to check a couple things, you know. My monitor is currently a mess of windows to get this to work, like, okay. Oh wait, what's it the crosshair on? Give me a minute. Interesting. Okay. Let me... Is that just gonna be there this whole time? Damn it. Do I remember how this works? Not at all. I can't use the web. I'm bad at using things, okay? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so I watched movies this past year, right? That's a thing that we do. That's a common pastime. But before we actually, get into the films that I actually watched this year, I wanted to put in some of them, mention some films that I wanted to watch, but were unable to, mainly because they're not available in America yet. And that was, these movies, right? I watched, one movie this past... That's fine, Ian, that's fine. I watch too many. But that's alright. But this past year, we got a new Kitaro film, Studio Ponok's new film called The Imaginary, or some bullshit like that, and the new Precure All-Stars movie, because they're always great. I was not able to watch these films. I was really sad, actually. They're just still unavailable in English, so... Maybe next time. Maybe next time. It do... be that way. Actually, I wonder if I can... Do I remember how to turn off the... There. I can do it that way. That's how I can turn off the crosshairs. That's nice. I forgot. It's fine. But the order I put these films in is month by month. Do I have them labeled as such? No, but that's how it is in my list, except for one film, because I wanted to save my favorite film that I watched this past year for last. But of course, the first film on our list is Shin Ultraman, which is, it's so sad that this was the first film I watched this year, for reasons. But this was, of course, directed by Shinji Higuchi. He does a lot of live action work. He does not do a lot of anime. One of the only notable ones I found on the list that people might recognize is Hisone and Masatan, which got localized as Dragon Pilot, I think. But he's also done Shin Godzilla and stuff like that. And of course the writer is Hideki Anno. Most of us are familiar with him with his work on the Eva franchise. This film goes straight into pure Kino, and that's what I mean by it's a little unfortunate that it's the first movie. Because it was really cool. I don't know if the movie was good, but it was definitely pure Kino. Because this film, I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of trouble watching it, because it is paced like 5 TV episodes. You'll get this 20-minute story, this 20 to 30-minute story that has cold open, an inciting incident, climax, falling action. It has the whole TV episode structure, and you'll do that 5 times over the course of this movie. It's a little bit awkward, but the film is impeccably shot. Oh my god, it feels like they never used the same camera angle twice. It is an absolute joy to look and watch this movie. The scene that I remember that lives rent-free in my head is you get this cold open to a scene in which the scene is pitch black, and you just hear rustling, like just like crunching and whatever. And when you suddenly see light, it's because the camera is inside of a bag of potato chips, and the character like just opened the bag and then reaches in and starts eating the potato chips. The camera is still in the bag, by the way, in this scene. It's weird, and the entire film is shot in like weird ways like that. Really neat. So if you like want to see a differently made film, that's something. If you're just a fan of Ultraman, this is a 10 out of 10 film. It's really cool, very respectable to the source material. It's Anno, though, so of course it was always going to be. The next film we'll be talking about is Suzume, directed and written by the biggest hack in Japan, Makoto Shinkai. Please don't take that statement too seriously. Okay? Okay, please, don't hurt me. I just don't like this director. I just don't like this director. I'm sorry, guys. I know a lot of people like love Your Name, 5 centimeters per second, Garden of Words, and this director has just almost never made a movie I've really loved. I've liked his movies, but I've never like loved them. I usually think they're a little too try hard for my taste, and this film is very similar. I'm putting this film in alright, maybe even enjoyable. This is... Oh, was that the chair? Yeah, this is the chair movie. It do be that way. It is not his worst movie, by far. I still say that is Children Who Chase Lost Voices, which also goes into the tier list of film titles that I hate. But it's just... it's so generic Makoto Shinkai, like Suzume, but without the romance. Like, it's everything you expect from a Shinkai film, but without the main marketable point you expect from a Shinkai film, which makes it awkward to me. I definitely like it more than Your Name, but I don't like it as much as, say, Weathering With You, which I still think is his best movie. Kinda just is what it is. So this next movie is technically a DCOM, except it was straight to Disney Plus, which means it was PG-13, and they could get away with more bullshit in this movie. They mentioned sex in it. It was really weird to watch like a DCOM, what essentially is a DCOM, and they mention sex. You see a gay couple in the film. I'm like, wow, we be wildin' out here. But this is Prom Pact, and this film is kind of bullshit. It's so weird. This was Disney trying to make like a modern 80s rom-com. Like, it is in the style of like your traditional 80s rom-com, and it's very fun in that respect. But it also takes place in modern day, so you have some like tropes and character archetypes that show up that you're kind of like, this is not 2023. This is like, because characters are pulling out their smartphones, and they mention the MCU because, you know, it's a Disney thing and they are allowed to mention that. But it's a little weird. It's a little weird. Hello, Darian. Like, I like the movie, and that's why I'm putting it in It's Alright. It was alright. It is kind of a bad movie. You have the stream muted. Good. But yeah, this movie, not great. I think if you're just in it to try to watch like a modern DCOM and you want to see like what kind of an edgier DCOM is would be, here you go. That's what that is. I thought this next film was going to be my favorite film of the year, and it like just got pushed out in the past month. But we have Shin Kamen Rider, also written by Hideki Anno, but he directed this one. You'll know him for his work on Neon Genesis Evangelion, of course. This man is such a Kamen Rider fan. This movie is like this beautiful, beautiful love letter to this franchise. It's also probably the best directed film Anno has made in a very long time. I feel like the Ava franchise has made this man's work significantly worse, mainly out of his motivation, because he famously hates working on those movies, but it is what it is. If you're a Kamen Rider fan, you've probably already watched this film, and you probably think it's the best film of the year. I would actually recommend other people to watch this. It is beautifully shot, beautifully written, but the caveat is that if you do not like the idea of watching a movie in which everyone is speaking in monotone, you're gonna have a problem. You're just straight up going to have an issue. The characters in this film are cyborgs, and the way that their performance is directed is they're like, you need to talk in monotone the entire film. So if that's not your thing, maybe not. There's a couple eccentric characters that break that mold, and they're a lot of fun. You will not... I've been asked this question before about this film, and that's, you do not need to know Kamen Rider to watch it. This is a pseudo reboot. It is a new timeline, and it's really neat. It's really neat. It's far more political than I thought it was going to be going into it. But I think those elements actually make me like the film a lot more, since it is like really going for something. Has a nice bite to it. And because of that, I have to put it in pure Kino. There were good movies that came out this year, guys. There were good movies, I swear. Sadly, the next movie is not one of them, because it's Element by Peter Sohn. He also directed The Good Dinosaur. I feel like that says a lot. Did anyone watch The Good Dinosaur? Did anyone watch this movie? Let me tell you, I did not like this movie. I thought it was kind of awful. Like, this is a movie that has, like, all of the same issues that Zootopia has, but significantly worse. Like, very significantly worse. Oh, hello, Crush. Because this has, like, the same, ooh, let's try to comment on, like, race and public perception on race, blah, blah, like, that kind of stuff. Except this film is not about that at all, because it's a love story, so it's instead background dressing, which I think is not where you want that. Because it just makes the film feel really awkward that it, like, half addresses it, but the story isn't about it. And so there's no real resolution. I kind of thought the pacing of this movie was god-awful. I hated the characters. The film is really cute in that it tries to portray, like, an interracial couple and how those, like, the downsides of that and how difficult that will be. And I think that's cute and admirable, but I don't think it ends up being a good movie. I can respect it, but I think it's kind of bad. Kind of the same with The Good Dinosaur. These are also the only two movies this guy has directed. He's done The Good Dinosaur and Elemental. I hope he makes a good movie one day. Anyway, I'm putting this movie in Y, because why? Why is this movie so bad? I don't know. I don't know at all. The next movie will be Ruby Gilman Teenage Kraken. I know nobody watched this movie. It was directed by Kirk Demico. Do I know if I'm pronouncing that right? Not at all. He's directed a bunch of films at DreamWorks. He's also done Vivo for Sony, which is like... He was also the co-director of The Croods, because of course The Croods was mainly directed by Chris Sanders. We love him, we respect him. No one knows his name. This film was so much better than it had any right to be. I think I jokingly referred to this movie as, like, what if Turning Red was a good movie? Which is facts. I legitimately had a great time. The animation was amazing the whole way through. The general art design was great outside of the water sequences, which thankfully aren't a lot. You're only in the water for like a couple scenes in the movie, but the lighting does not work down there. Kind of wish they got that figured out, but everything else in the movie is really good. And aside from like a very lackluster climax, because it's a very generic kids movie climax, I had an absolutely great time. I loved the characters. The dad is the best for reasons. He has an ASMR live stream. I don't know why they made the dad do ASMR live streams as one of his hobbies, but he do be doing that. Very modern film in that respect. It's actually pretty good. Would recommend watching at least once, but it is a kids movie, so if you don't want like it do be that way. Like if you're like an adult and you want like an adult story, not for you, but it is a really, really fun kids film. So the next film is Resident Evil / Biohazard Death Island. I have no idea who these director and writer are. I looked through their filmography. I don't know. There's a lot of like live action TV work and live action film. I don't know. I don't really partake in that often, so I just am unfamiliar with this director and writer, and I figured it wasn't worth putting like tags on what else they wrote because I've got no comment. Now I will say I am a person that does I do like the 3D Resident Evil movies. They're just so much fun for no reason. This one isn't as good as some of the other ones. It's kind of meh. It's still a lot of fun, and something that I was caught off guard with is one of the major plot elements of the movie is Jill is currently a lone wolf type character. She's going on missions by herself. She's going into locations without backup. She's trying to prove herself. And Chris is like, no, please don't do that. We've already lost you once before. And I'm like, is that supposed to be a reference to RE5? Because if it is, I'd love that. Because it seems like these movies still take place in the original timeline and not remake timeline, which also means we still have some camp. Also, shout out to this film actually using Rebecca. She is in the movie. Look, she's in the very back. She's in the very back there in the green. She exists, guys. She does indeed exist. Isn't that exciting? I personally think that's a little bit exciting. But I'm going to put this film in was alright. Like I said, it's not nearly as entertaining as some of the other films that are in like the 3D Resident Evil film catalog, which there are a lot now, right? Are we in the double digits yet? I legitimately don't know. But if you're a fan of the Resident Evil films, definitely go watch it. It's still a lot of fun. I love during the climax of the movie where it feels like the characters actually have attaché cases that you aren't privy to. Because the amount of just, like, weapons these characters are pulling out of their asses to fight the final, like, monster was really funny. Very entertaining. So the next film is another kind of direct-to-video-esque movie, because I do watch those, and it's Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2, directed by, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that name, and also written by T.K. O'Brien. The director has mostly done work on the Harley Quinn animated series on HBO Max, if it's still the thing airing there, I don't know. And also the first incarnation of the DC superhero girls, or as I like to call it, the lesser of the two DC superhero girls shows. Not that it's bad, it's just lesser. I'm going to say that this film was a huge disappointment. I'm actually a big fan of these direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movies, and this one felt so stilted and awkward that I'm like, what's the fucking point? Also, Crypto is barely in the movie. For some reason, the main, like, supporting character from DC Comics is Lex Luthor, and I assume they just couldn't figure out how to make Crypto feel like a character without him, like, because he doesn't talk. They make it so Crypto just doesn't talk in this movie, and so he just barely gets screen time. And it's just like what? The movie has got Crypto in the name. I was excited to see more Crypto the Super Dog, because I like Crypto. I'm a big fan of the Super Pets. I think they're fun. So the fact that he, like, barely has screen time, the movie is, like, horrendously paced, the art design kind of not great in the movie. Like, the DC characters look so flat and kind of jank. Another weird thing is that it feels like they didn't get enough voice actors in the movie. Like, you have these cameo appearances from characters like Zod and Solomon Grundy and the Joker, and they just don't talk. They grunt, but they don't really talk. Like, you'll have, like, the Joker show up and he'll just laugh, and, like, someone will punch him, right? And I'm just, it feels weird how much, like, how few characters talk in this movie. It's kind of distracting. But I'm definitely putting this movie straight into Y, because it's just disappointing. Like, why is the movie like this? It's so kind of shit. Very disappointing for me as, like, a fan of these kind of movies. The next film is Monster High 2. What do I even say about this movie? What do I say other than, like, you know what quality of film you are getting into when you choose to watch a direct-to-video Nickelodeon-produced film. Like, both these movies are bad. Like, both Monster High movies, they're just straight up bad. But they're entertaining. They're very entertaining. Was alright. Enjoyable, even. Like, the effects on them? Bad. The costuming? Obnoxious and terrible. Everything about these films are so meh and mediocre, and yet I'm sitting there clapping. I'm clapping the whole time, because it's the dumbest shit. I will say one thing, this movie is worse than the first one. Like, the first Monster High movie, I think, is so campy and enjoyable that it's just that you're gonna be laughing the whole time. This movie takes itself a little too seriously. They're like, no, the drama, the bond between your trio. So if you're not even the slightest bit invested into these characters, this movie falls apart immediately, because they try to make you care so much, as I just don't think it makes it as enjoyable. Like, yeah, I can't just sit down and casually watch this movie and laugh at it. It's just trying a little too hard. But neither here nor there. I still had a good time. Not How Our Story Will Go is, like, the best song in both movies. Unfortunate that it's in the kind of a very, very mediocre film, especially for these, like, direct-to-video style movies. Like, I liked Prom Pact a lot more than Monster High, just kind of by default. All right, the next movie. This is gonna upset people, I think, my opinions on the next movie, because the next film is Five Nights at Freddy's, directed by Emma Tommy, who's done a lot of they've done a lot of TV work and a lot of films I have never heard of. No idea. And written by Scott Cawthorn. They have a lot of FNAF credits. I assume they're like one of the game developers or something. Maybe the game developer? I don't know. I think I'm going to upset a lot of people when I say that I'm going to put this movie in was alright. And the main reason for that is, you know, I'm a filthy art major, right? I'm a filthy art major. Those animatronics were so cool, and some of the set design was so well realized, I almost don't even care that the script was awful and that the movie was boring as shit. Because anytime that, like, those animatronics are on screen, I'm just like, oh, I want to see how they work. Oh, let me turn around. I want to see, like, how the like how like all the mechanical parts fit together, because it's so cool. I don't think this movie was a train wreck. I legitimately don't. I don't think the movie was good. Please don't, like, mix that up. Like, these tier lists, this is not, like, great, good. This is far more my user experience, because I thought that that would be a bit more honest, rather. But yeah, I think the movie was, like, just all right. You can watch it and have fun with it. I think kids will get a lot more out of this movie than I ever will. I think it's, like, just okay. I do legitimately think it is so hard to follow that movie. Like, characters will start saying things and I'm like, bitch, I don't know what that means. Like, anytime Vanessa, that character's in the movie, I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. But look, I'm not a FNAF enjoyer. That's how people condense that, right? FNAF. Not it's fine. It's fine. You can do a lot worse in the same year. Like, I would much rather watch FNAF again than Elemental, is what I'm saying. Tried to tell you in my own way. Oh yeah, the script was bad. We're not getting around that. That script was bad. I don't know. Kind of just, I think there's, like, an enjoyable enough element that I can't say that the movie is, like, all bad. There's enjoyable things. That's why I put it here. Especially for someone like me, where I'm like, oh my god, animatronics! You know, I've read several books about the animatronics at, like, the Disney parks, so I really like how, like, animatronics work and how they're built and how they can be presented to I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. The next film is a film that literally no one wanted or cared about, and that's Digimon 02 New Beginning by Tomoshisa Taguchi, who has also directed the anime adaptation of, like, Twin Star Exorcist, which was, like, one of the only high-profile things I saw on their filmography, and written by Akatsuki Yamatoya, who did series composition for Hero Man, which was exciting for me, because I'm like, oh my god, Hero Man! I didn't know you people still existed. I thought you were all taken out back and shot. Just like the series. So, I have a tenuous relationship with Digimon, right? Like, I like the franchise, but I kind of, like, hate most of the installments. And 02 is definitely one of those installments that I think is just kind of not good, let's say. And when they're like, here's your new installment for Digimon, it's the 02 cast, I'm kind of like, but why though? And the film still does not really justify it being about the 02 cast, because it should just be about that little Joker-fied individual in the back. And by the way, this new character they made for the movie, Louis, I think that was his name, based, red-pilled, Joker-fied. Like, when this lad stares dead-eyed at his Digimon partner and picks up the baseball bat, I was like, yo, let's go! More of that in the film, please. I did legitimately like that this film turns into a horror movie for, like, 20 minutes, more as a reference to the 02 film Hurricane Touchdown Legend of the Golden Digimentals. What a title. This film was, I don't, it's hard, but I'm going to say that I had a great time. The new elements of the film were good. The 02 cast weren't like... They're well written here for the 02 cast. And as a follow-up to Kizuna, sure, as any 02 project, it kicks the themes of the adventure product in its teeth. But the film is just straight up kind of enjoyable. It is paced fairly well. It's just kind of pleasant. The character designs are also much improved over some of like the last couple Digimon things. And, you know, I still have that gleeful joy of watching Digimon more often than not. So, like, I can honestly say that I had a great time. Is what it is. The next film, nobody watched. And I know this because I've looked at the box office. The next film is Wish by Chris Buck. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. Fawn. There we go. They've done a lot of... They've never really directed before, but they have a lot of, like, other credits at the Disney company. And I had to, of course, put Surf's Up under Chris Buck because I want him to be known for that. I don't want him to be known for Frozen. Fuck you. He directed Surf's Up. Everyone, we should not forget. We can never forget. This film is bad. This film is bad. I feel like it's films like this that make me look at FNAF and go like, it was fine. Because like I had to sit in theaters and watch Wish, and you know, having watched also like Elemental and such, I'm like, man, there's so much worse movies that I could have like I watched this year that it almost like props up FNAF of like, you're not abysmal. So that's why I put that there. I don't think this movie works. Like Wish, I think it's like ambitious in that like it's a really cute idea to have like a film that is meta about the Disney company's 100-year anniversary. But it ends up coming across as far more obnoxious. I think this film has the worst script of the films we have so far, because the lengths that this movie goes to try to make jokes that are still in line with like the Disney 100 brand. Like you have this really dumb scene in which like the villain of the movie, right? His whole gimmick is that he can physically collect wishes, and he can like, and they form these orbs, these bubbles. And he can like pop these bubbles to like give himself power because, you know, it's Disney, right? Wishes hold actual power in this world. Blah, blah, that kind of bullshit. But he's like... The jokes they try to come up with are really poor. Because you have like the scene where he's like menacingly like popping the bubbles. He's like trying to make puns and jokes while he's doing it. And one of the bubbles he pops is very clearly like supposed to be like Neverland, right? Like the wish of going to somewhere beautiful and new. And he goes like, world's second star to the right? Huh. How about never? Like, I'm like, oh, that's trying too hard. Or he like picks up one that's clearly supposed to be like Mary Poppins. And, here, let me... I'm sorry, I forgot to make sure that this cycles correctly for the music. Very sorry, guys. And he like pops this bubble and he's like, a nanny that want like a magic nanny to take care of your kids? How about Poppins? Like, I'm like, these jokes are bad. These are a stretch. Oh my god. How did this make it into a final script? And the whole movie is like full of these. I personally thought it was obnoxious when the talking goat was like, oh, my wish is that we have a utopian society where animals can wear clothes. And I just wanted to like reach into the screen and strangle this goat. Like, stop. Don't be that way. Why is the script like this? Like, everything like has to be a pun about a pre-existing Disney property. And that just, it makes the film obnoxious on top of the film not being good on like already. Because the film, even like when you remove all those awful jokes, still is bad. And still is like not fun to watch. Like, I almost respect the visual design, but it also looks kind of bad. This film, I think, was a disaster. This was the disaster of the year that I watched. I'm like, nothing in here works. Which is, like, kind of sad, but is what it is. I'm putting this in Y, right? There's, like, this is definitely a Y movie. This is just... How did this make it past, like, focus testing? How did this... I don't... What happened, guys? What happened? I don't know. Okay, so the next movie is Trolls Band Together. And this film basically has, like, the directors and writers of the prior Trolls movies. So, if you liked the prior Trolls movies, you'll probably like this one. Heck, I liked this movie a lot. I had such a great time. I guess I should just immediately put this here. But yeah, Trolls 3, even though it doesn't have a number on it, it just says Trolls Band Together. This was actually an enjoyable film from start to end. This movie has so much energy and goes so fast that I'm just like, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster, just having a grand old time. The jokes are actually fun. I actually laughed in the theater. That doesn't happen. I'm usually like a nice, well-behaved person. I'm like, no, not a peep out of me. I can't make noise. That's upsetting the people around me. But there was some stuff in here I just couldn't help but laugh. Oh my god. This shit's so funny. The new villains, I can't remember their names off for my life. But, you know, I also can't remember literally anyone's name in this movie franchise except for Brent. So, that tells you something about my memory more than anything else. But those two new villains are 10 out of 10. Every scene with them is pure gold. Just every single time. When they're on screen, I just had a smile on my face. 10 out of 10. This movie's great. Definitely would recommend it if you just want, like, a fun-to-watch movie. Also has some really cool animation if you're, like, if you're an artsy person and care about that sort of bullshit. Then that's your thing, you know? It is what it is. The last movie, not the last movie, but this past movie, I can't talk to save my fucking life. This next movie was like the last film I watched in theaters, that being Migration, the Illumination film. When I finally looked up the staff for this movie, I was very surprised to see Benjamin Renner. So he's done films like The Fox and the Big Bad Wolf and Ernest and Celestine. This is a French director. They've done a lot of like really good, like French produced animated films. So I was just like, what are you doing here? And I haven't watched much by the writer of this movie. The only film I recognized was the Emoji Movie. Take that for what you will. This movie is pretty good. This movie also feels out of time in a lot of ways. Like, I was watching this movie and I'm like, this feels like a film that was probably supposed to be made in the late 90s and early 2000s. Like, that's how this film feels. So I had a very good time. It also has some episodic pacing. So if you're not a fan of that in your films, that's going to be an issue for you here. But I had an absolutely good time. I don't think it's the best movie by this director. I still kind of think like Ernest and Celestine is like their best film, but it is what it is. I'm definitely putting this movie in was all right, because it definitely was like I had fun from start to finish. I definitely had fun from start to finish. Just such a good time, but it wasn't like good enough to push it to a great time, right? There's just like there's some sequences that I'm like, I'm staring at my watch a bit. Like, can we wrap this up? This isn't like the best. It does push its celebrity voice cast a little bit too much, or I assume the celebrity voice cast, because certain scenes feel obnoxious, like in that regard. If I remember right, I think Aquafina was a character. That was annoying. But not as annoying as I thought it was going to be. So, is what it is. I definitely do recommend the movie, only because I know that no one was going to watch it. and I'm like, it's like actually worth. Like this movie isn't. I don't think this movie deserves being forgotten about in history. I think this movie should be something that people go out and see at least once. Hello, Vucky. Like, this movie at least has like one amazing scene that I will remember forever, and that's when these characters first go to like a human inhabited city. Like the way that that scene is directed and shot as they like descend below the clouds into the city is magical. Because usually when you have like, the animals are gonna go to the city, it's made in this way that's like, oh, they don't belong here, or whatever. It's like, oh, horns honking. They're like, oh my god. And instead, like, is it bad that you don't know half these movies? Look, Vucky, I watch some weird ass movies. So, no, you're fine. It's weird that half these movies are on here for me. Well, no, it's obvious why these movies are on here for me, but like, these are films that most people like would not be watching. But yeah, the descent that these birds go in when they go into the city is like actually magical. It's a beautiful sequence. I think like if you watch any like singular scene in this movie, you watch that one. Actually great. The next film is How Do You Live? Or The Boy and the Heron, as it's called in America. I don't know about other countries, but like for some reason in America, it's called The Boy and the Heron. Directed by some nobody that nobody knows, named like Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki, you know how it is. This movie is great. This movie's amazing. I'm putting this in great time. I wouldn't put it in. I thought about putting it in Kino. And I legitimately still think about doing that, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't think it's like strongly directed enough to put it in pure Kino. And I also don't think it's the best Miyazaki film. I do think this movie's getting a bad rap. I'm seeing a lot of like negative / mediocre reception for How Do You Live? And the main criticism that I see from a lot of people is that the film is too abstract and the story doesn't make any sense. And, oh, hello, Puddin. It is, I don't think those are problems. Like, I feel like when you get to when you go through the first 10 minutes of How Do You Live, you know you're going to be watching an abstract movie, and because it's a movie about like a kid overcoming grief, right? And so that story is like told to you, and that experience is told to you in this abstract way. And I think that's a fair and kind of beautiful way to make that film. Does it mean that scenes don't really flow together? Does it mean that there isn't like a consistent visual motif? Does it mean that like it's a little confusing because you'll be like in an island adventure in one scene, and then it cuts to like kid interacting with a bunch of like anthropomorphic parakeets in a utopian society? Yes, it does. And it also has scenes like a talking pelican with a broken beak bleeding out, talking about the horrible cycle of life and death, of predator and prey, and how life isn't worth living. This film's lit. I adored How Do You Live? Like, it's, again, not my favorite Miyazaki film, but I do think it is an amazing piece to sit down and watch. Okay. So the last film on here, right? This is saved my favorite film of the year for last, and that film is Gridman Universe by Akira Amemiya. Yes. I make no... this is heavy biased on my part, because I love this director. I've loved everything that they've made. I love the SSSS franchise, and to have like a movie conclusion for those television shows, I was so on board and so looking forward to it. And I thought this movie was straight up bad for the first 20 minutes. It was a very odd experience where I'm sitting there and I'm like, is this movie just bad? Cause like the first 20 minutes is so weird. So like for a little bit of context, I know I haven't been summarizing these movies because I don't really like doing that, but to give you some context, after the events of Gridman and Dynazenon, you just have the Gridman cast sitting down and going like, hey, why don't we make a movie for our like school festival? And it'll be about the events of like our television show, of Gridman. And so because the world's memories of that event were wiped, so only like 2 characters remember those events. And they're like, yeah, we'll make a movie about it. And so there'll be a record about it in our world. Like, wouldn't that be cool? And they start talking about, like, they start script writing it. And characters are commenting like, oh, I don't know, this character feels like a Mary Sue. Or like, it's a little too, like, pretentious, don't you think? Like, it's characters in universe commenting on a script about Gridman. And it's real life criticisms that the Gridman show had. Like, you had, like, one of the characters going, oh, I wanted to make sure that, like, Akane was front and center in the script, because I feel like her journey is such an emotional experience and that people will, like, her story needs to be told. It needs to be, like, done. Is this all animated? No. There is live action in this movie, which is a little weird, but it's a lot of fun. And you have, like, characters in universe commenting, like, oh, Akane feels like a Mary Sue, and it hurts one of the characters' feelings. Like, no, but her character arc is, like, her story is this beautiful, emotional thing, like, that needs to be told. And it's like, this is so meta. This is so fucking meta for no reason. I don't know. And, what is this all? Oh, on the No, these are just all movies that I watched this past year. So these are all, like, the 2023 films that I've watched. And then the Dynazenon cast show up and they're like, hey, we'll help you with your script, right? Like, we're stuck in this dimension anyway. Like, it's very meta, because like they're separate. They take place in different universes, and just the Dynazenon cast showing up and going like, oh, no, space and time anomalies are happening. We're just here now, I guess, and everyone just shrugs it off. And then they start script writing, like, why don't we make it a crossover between Dynazenon and Gridman? And it'll be a combination of our stories. And they start commenting on how, like, unwieldy that would actually be. And how, like, oh, is there even emotional core to this story? It seems like it would just be a bunch of action scenes. And it's just that it's so meta for no reason. And I'm like, sir, director? Did you make the first half hour to an hour of this movie you being like your feelings on writing the movie, like on you directing the film? Like, it seems like it's just a bunch of like self-criticism and how would I even write a crossover between these, and then followed by 40 straight minutes of action, which was Kino. This movie was Kino. This movie is like 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. It needs to be even more meta. It needs a more. It's so dumb. It's so cool, and it's still shot amazingly. It still has that like emotional core you would want from the characters. It's a revised epilogue for the cast of Gridman, while just showing how like beautiful the cast of Dynazenon is. Like, when it pans up in one scene, the first time you see the main duo from Dynazenon, like, and they're just bickering, trying to, like, figure out directions, like, I lit up. I was like, oh my god, it's them. We're 20 minutes into the movie, this is everything I wanted. I just wanted to see these characters again, and they're just doing their thing. Because this is a Gridman film. The Dynazenon cast is just there because their character arcs are done. The Gridman cast, them getting revised epilogues and like more of a conclusion, that was probably needed. And I'm glad that they did that. But I would not recommend this movie. The movie's almost too weird and too meta. Like when the Dynazenon cast show up and they're like, we're from another dimension. Is that weird? And you have a character just say, multiverse stories are all the rage these days. I was just like, that's meta. Like, but like these kids would be savvy and those kind of things, so I guess it's fine. It's very weird. It's very weird. But I guess if any of that like sounds interesting to you, like go watch it. And if you liked Gridman or if you liked Dynazenon, I would still say, you know, go watch it. It's a cool movie. It's my favorite movie of the year. That's not saying much though, because I always like the weird shit. You know, you're looking at this list and like, I'm sure half of the movies on here you'll like, I've never heard of half of these, or I definitely didn't watch more than half of these, right? But there we go. That's all the movies I watched in 2023. Please comment below about my shit taste. And that I watched 2 weird of movies. It is what it is. I do be watching the weird shit. I hope to do this again next year. Please give me some pointers. I don't know how well this went, but I am open to criticism, of course, always. You can should I do this in a different format? Should I do this a little bit differently next time? I don't know. Again, let me know in the comments below. But I'll be ending the stream here. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys around.